PSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
Is a paid program. The content is provided by the advertiser. WPSL, its staff, management, and ownership are not responsible for the content. Investment involves risk. Prior to making any investment, an investor should meet suitability requirements. Past results are not necessarily indicative of future performance. Neither the opinions expressed nor the information provided constitutes a recommendation to purchase or provide investment advice. The material presented is not a substitute for obtaining professional advice from a qualified person or firm. Securities offered through Centaurus Financial, member FINRA and SIPC. And now, the host of the Team Martek Hour, Joe Martek.
And I am Joe Martek, and Deanne Woron sitting right next to me.
Let me tell you what, that is the best thing that they should play exactly what they just said before people vote. Past performance is no guarantee of this and that, and nobody really knows what we're doing, blah, 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 blah.
You know what? That's not a bad disclaimer for every politician.
Everybody should have that disclaimer if you're a politician.
Nobody knows what we're doing. We are the federal government.
That's right. Don't believe a word I said yesterday because it's going to change today.
You know, and listen, there's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of my more favorite sayings. If it works, change it.
Well, here's the bottom line. If you lie to the Fed, you're in a world of trouble. If they lie to you, well, it's too bad.
Well, were you listening to the Twitter thing this morning, where they're grilling the Congress or is grilling Twitter and that Twitter they let a tweet come out of Russia or China that said the American military was the cause of the COVID coming into America.
It came in on our clothes.
And it stayed up for 2 months. Trump came up and said there's a problem with mail-in ballots, and they took it off the first day. So they're trying to do a correlation between the two tweets. What do you think, Chief? Is there a correlation somewhere in there?
Here's the correlation.
What's a tweet?
I don't
tweet.
I don't tweet. I'm not involved with it. It doesn't have any control over me. I don't really do a lot of that social media stuff.
I don't like emails. I don't like messages.
I set up a Twitter account, maybe a little over a year ago. And it's like, and I get so much, I just said the hell with it. But I still get all these notifications. I must get 100 a day. Yeah. And it's like,
I have a life to live.
How do people have time for this?
Well, they don't have a life. That's all they live for.
The other side of the coin is, how often do you look at your phone for messages that people want to text rather than call?
Oh, once every couple hours.
Do you see? I know people, they must have it right attached to their body every minute of the day. They just look constantly for text.
Well, it's like a drug. There is a withdrawal from your phone for people. If your phone breaks or you can't find it, there are people that go into withdrawal because they're used to that.
A boater buddy of mine that loves to text me, and I keep saying it to him, and then he'll call me finally after a couple of days, says, "You didn't answer my text." And I says, "That's because I don't look at them. I don't sit here and look for texts. I look for phone calls." Anyway, I don't like
what?
A phone call. Can you believe such a thing?
What the hell's that?
You know that thing that you dial and it goes, once it comes back, you turn it? Ancient. Remember you?
I'm ancient.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
340-1590, 340-1590.
And most of my texts go to junk mail. Because I have certain software that says, unless I really know who you are, junk mail you go.
Listen, I have a company email address that gets probably 30 or 40 hits a day from vendors, which I never check any of them. Then I get a message from my home office says, "Don't you ever check your emails?" And I say, No.
I don't live by that.
No. They just drive you nuts because you're constantly, whether it's text or emails, you lose half a day.
Listen, if you text me and I text you back and you text me another question and I have to answer that, we could have done all that in about 30-second phone call.
I did have an honest explanation for texting one time because, and it started me texting a little bit. He said, "Joe, one of the problems when you call somebody on the phone, normally you say, 'Hey, how's the wife? How's the kids? How's the weather? How's the fit? How's the back?' You try to be nice. With your text, you don't have to be nice. You just go straight for blood and guts." I said, "Well, that kind of makes sense, but still, I know in the construction industry, they pick up the phone, which we were for years. There was no hello, how are you? Fred, it's Charlie. I'll be there in a half an hour. Hang up. Guys that are organizing a construction job with cement, whatever.
I got to ask you, were you into that Nextel push to talk back in the day?
No, I remember that.
You mean like a
Don't they still have
CB
some of that
radio?
hanging out?
Well, no. This was the Nextel about 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Like
a walkie-talkie?
It was kind of like CB radio in a way.
Listen, the only time
it was cell.
We were ever involved in that is long before we had cell phones. We had radio system for our foremen in their cars, and they could take a mobile gigantic phone with them.
A walkie-talkie.
Walkie-talkie shipped to shore VHF,
to the job site, to the job site, and it was helpful.
Oh yeah. Hey, VHF radio, you're not supposed to carry them around in your car. You're only supposed to on the water. But it's they're $30 a piece. You can have them any place. They come in handy. 340-1590, 340-1590. And there's a rumor out here that Alan Love, our special guest member, might be reinvicted.
He's gone to Las Vegas.
No, that is postponed.
Postponed.
Postponed, yes.
Is it indefinitely postponed?
At least until March. So I'm going to be with you live. And all the talk about Vegas, all you got to do is take a few weeks off and go on your boat, and they'll rerun all those shows where you talked about Vegas, and they'll be pertinent, probably. No, seriously, my friend Nancy is going through some undiagnosed health issues, and I just said to her, why don't you let me get you through this, and it'll get me through
let me ask you,
the cold winter of Vegas.
Is the boyfriend still showing?
We don't know. We do not know.
We're not going to say catfish. Does she ever listen to these shows?
No.
Good, because we don't want...
So are you going to have her rewrite her will while you're taking care of her?
Well, as a matter of fact, you reminded me I got to call Greg and cancel an appointment tomorrow. Thank you very much, Greg. We're talking about that great trust and estates attorney, Greg Fasula.
Back in 2004, Dan Woron, independent insurance agent, Greg Fasula, attorney, our only liberal member, which I wish he was. Well, you know what? Next week. Next Wednesday, we want everybody
He won't
here.
show.
He won't show.
Unless it's a blowout.
If he wins, he's going to be gloating like crazy if Biden wins.
Okay. Big New York Times story last night.
Right.
Big. That at least 10 states will not have the election results finalized until Thanksgiving.
All blue states.
I don't think so.
Well, would you remember what states they were? Was it New York, California, Oregon, Washington? Come on. Huh?
Who knows?
No. That makes it
Well, Illinois is definitely one of them.
Okay.
Wisconsin tried to be one of them.
Okay.
But the Supreme Court took care of that.
How about Michigan? You don't remember?
Michigan is one of them.
Another Democrat. See, I'm giving you all of
Okay,
all the blue
I
states.
see what you're saying. Yeah.
Well, of course. Hey, come on.
It takes time to print up that many ballots.
You got.
I didn't realize that there were 150 million people living in Michigan.
I know, it's amazing, isn't it?
Isn't that amazing? 150.
Half of our whole country is living in Michigan.
150 million.
And none of them.
Hey, wait a minute! I hate to tell you.
And none of them speak English.
In Wayne County, which is primarily Detroit, has 100 million of them.
Now, seriously, back in the day when you were there, wasn't that one of the largest cities in America?
1.5 million. Detroit was 1.5 million back in the 60s.
I saw.
And now what is it?
500,000 or less.
Yeah, that's I saw a number and I said my eyes must be going.
If you would not believe this, I did this a couple 3 years ago on a reminiscing tour, and I drove through Detroit, and you'd think it was a cow pasture. They actually took all the houses down. Blocks after blocks after blocks, just took them all down. But then there'd be one house standing up, and there'd be 150 missing. Then another one house standing up, and another 150.
People would still live there.
Somebody was still living in that house. They said you could buy a house for almost free in Detroit.
If you could pay the taxes.
Just pay that was it.
Well, here's the thing. I saw a fantastic picture of Detroit right after World War II, after they dropped the bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and it showed a picture of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And now it's just like a role reversal.
Yeah, it looks
Hiroshima and Nagasaki are all built up, and Detroit
is
looks
a disaster.
like a bomb hit.
340-1590, 340-1590. Hey, Russ, it's Joe Martek. You're on the radio.
Yeah, I'm trying to start a movement.
I can't hear him
I'm here.
on this
Are you
thing.
here?
I'm here.
Can you hear Russ?
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me?
You don't want to talk to me.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Well, guess what?
Okay,
this is not happy.
Well, Russ.
can you or can't you?
Okay, I got it.
Go ahead, Russ.
Okay.
Now, Russ.
All right. I'm trying
Actually,
to start
this
a movement. See if you guys want to join. I'm calling it the My Brain Matters, and I'm going to go out and protest all these fake news kind of things.
You know.
If I can.
I saw. We were talking about it at the beginning of the show. Gutfield on the 5 on Fox News said, there's a reason why Republicans, conservatives don't demonstrate and riot, because we all have to go to work tomorrow.
And clean up all the mess.
Yeah, we got to clean up. Somebody's got to pay for all this stuff.
Well, unfortunately, they want the taxpayer to pay for it all.
But the interesting thing is that the stores that are being looted are going to be gone.
I can tell you that some of those areas they'll never rebuild.
Well, if Detroit ever comes back, it'd be a flat miracle. The only way it can is if there's hundreds of empty factories in Detroit. I don't know all of the things that finally happened that put all of these things out, and when the automobile industry and all of the suppliers moved out of the country, now they're slowly coming back. But somebody said probably the greatest bargain in the world is Detroit. You can get all you want almost for free. A factory, big facility.
Would that be a supply and demand thing? There's no demand to live there?
You got lots of supply and no demand, right? 340-1590, 340-1590. Did Russ leave us because my earphones weren't working? I think he did.
No, I'm still here.
Hey, Russ, tell me what happened. My earphones weren't working, but you said you're going to organize a demonstration after the election?
Your mind doesn't matter, Joe.
My mind doesn't matter.
No, I'm starting a movement calling it My Brain Matters.
Well, wait a minute. I hate to say this. You're the wrong color to have a brain.
And it doesn't matter.
And it doesn't matter.
How do you know what color I am?
Because Russ, you sound like you're from, let's see, let me pick a state.
A flyover state.
A flyover state, right? Where are you from, Russ?
The morning guys call me Minnesota Russ.
Minnesota.
Definitely flyover.
Hey, boy, that's the truth. Hey, I remember Minnesota. The state bird is the mosquito, and the black flies.
What?
Oh, boy.
Mosquitoes can't survive in that freezing country.
Yeah, but let me tell you, that 2 weeks a year when they finally come out, they make up for it, right? Russ,
it's a good place to be from.
Hey, I'm listen. You and I are both from the frozen chosen, and I miss it so terrible. I miss having salt stains on my shoes and my fingers numb. I mean, it's just really miss that.
Yep.
Hey, listen. Let me know when you organize the demonstration. We need to have more than you show.
Joe will bring his brain.
I'll bring my brain.
You don't need brains aren't required. It's just a matter.
Well, then I really qualify. Then we're in good shape.
Then Joe will just bring the scotch.
The scotch.
Guess what, Russ? If you do single malts, I'll guarantee you 100 people to show. Hey, Russ, thanks for calling in, my man.
Yep.
Okay, who we got here next on the line, Chief?
Line 3.
Well, that really tells me a whole lot. Margaret, this is Joe Martek. You're on the radio.
Hi. Were you joking about the population of Michigan? Because
of course he's joking. Of course.
150 million. Oh, you scared me.
Honey, no. Listen. I'm from Detroit originally, and the whole concept when we do stacking, the joke here is we mail in ballots. When we send all these illegal ballots in, all of a sudden there's 150 million coming from Michigan.
More votes than residents.
More votes than residents. So the whole The population of Michigan might be 6 or 7 million.
It's just under 10.
There you go, just under 10. That's called 6 or 7 or 8 or 9.
It's under 10.
Under 10. Yeah.
I'm slow. I didn't think about it, what you were talking about.
So you're from Michigan?
Oh, no, actually I'm from the South.
Wait, well, you see, you probably married
Southern Michigan.
You probably married a Yankee, and that rub off on you, and that's why you're a little slow.
Oh God!
Dad.
Where in the South are you from?
Alabama, where people act nice.
Absolutely.
Well, see, that's Greg Fasula, our attorney.
Hey, my son-in-law.
He went to Alabama.
He's from Tuscaloosa.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
I will tell you, if I could do it on purpose and be born again, I'd want to be born in the South. Family values, everything about it is better than us Yankees.
Are there schools in Alabama?
Yeah, but they're
bet.
all yeah.
Have they had
What you have to do is call George Wallace and say how the school's doing.
And where's your dog at?
Where's your dog?
Oh.
You remember that? Which?
Arlene.
Yeah. All right, girl. Well, listen, we do appreciate you listening. We really do. In spite of the fact.
You behave now.
You too.
Hey,
No,
listen,
you don't know him.
As long as you don't say bless his heart, I'll feel okay.
Well, I was thinking about it, but I didn't want to say that
She was
loud.
too much of a lady.
Wait a
Joe.
minute. I think she's reckoned to think about it before she says bless his heart. I remember my favorite mother-in-law. She would be saying something unbelievably.
You mean your favorite ex-mother-in-law?
Yes, true. She'd be very despairingly. Oh, that woman is such a. And starts with S, ends with T. Bless her heart. That's how you always end it. Makes you sound better, right?
That's right.
It softens it.
It softens it, right?
That's a backhanded compliment.
Backhanded. Thank you, Margaret. Good talking to you, baby. Thanks for calling us. 340-1590. We still have Jim on the line? Jim, are you still there? Maybe?
I'm still here.
Hey,
Jim.
Welcome.
He's calling from Connecticut.
Are you Southampton?
It's Jim Willis, Joe.
Jim Willis, my Lord, save me. How did you find out I was on the radio? You probably checked it out because you can read still, right?
Still read, yeah, but you got old for crying out loud. I didn't even recognize you.
Listen, one thing about it, neither one of us have died yet, but you can't tell.
Well, it's hard to tell. We're in the Northeast. It takes longer.
You get frozen.
Yeah, you guys are, what do they call it, cryonic up there?
They haven't been thawed out yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
The reason I called is I wanted to know if there was any place that you could recommend I can find some morel mushroom.
Yeah, there is. It's
Cow
called
pasture.
You got to go on Mother's Day in Michigan, and it's in May. You can't get them until then.
Wait a minute. What?
That's true. Jim Willis, let me just tell you, Jim is this. He and I go back to 1976, and I can't tell you all the stuff we've gone through because most of it we can't repeat. But the bottom line is we have some history, Jim. Is that fair?
That's fair. Nice way to put it.
Yeah. And Jim, now you're a preacher, am I right now? Somewhat?
Yes, sir.
Ordained?
Yep.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Time out.
No, wait a minute.
He's a preacher and he hung out with you?
Well,
He was practicing saving
He was
souls.
trying to save
Well,
him.
here's what happened is, I do Christian radio at 4 o'clock today. You should be calling us in on that.
On that channel.
On that channel too.
How
because
in the hell do you do that?
Well, it's simple. I don't listen to anything you tell me, Greg. Greg, by the way, is our producer and the station owner's husband. I say he owns it, but I know better. But
No.
so Jim.
great.
So Connecticut is treating you okay now?
Yeah. Matter of fact, we put the band back together, and Packer and I are working on doing some new multifamily stuff.
How about that?
Yeah.
Well, good for you. So you're traveling all over the country again?
Well, not yet. That's next year.
Next year. Okay. That's right. You're supposed to be COVIDing now, right?
Absolutely.
So what part of Connecticut are you in?
We're on the coast.
You know, your memory's gone. You can't even remember the name of the town you're in.
I know. I don't even know what country I'm in.
Is it called Waterville? Waterville?
Well, we're probably closest to Stanford and Greenwich. An hour out in New York City.
Gotcha.
There you go.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the nice part of Connecticut.
Well, where the train, you're not at the end of the train, huh?
Not at the end. No, the track is nearby, but we're not at the end.
Jim, my man, I really appreciate you calling in. You just brought back tons and tons of memories that jumped out of my head. And one of these days, we're going to hook up. You know that.
Absolutely. Well, when I'm in Florida next, I'll come visit.
Please, please, please.
Will do.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks for calling.
Okay, thanks, Joe. We'll talk.
340-1590, 340-1590.
That was a ghost from your past, Joe?
Well, what happened is just a quick story. 1976, we started a company doing workouts for banks, meaning taking over big communities, big projects.
I thought you meant exercising.
Yeah. Well, Chase Manhattan was our first client. And we had two condominium projects. One had 300 units, one had 400, and none were sold, and they were all built. Well, the banks back after the 74-75 recession basically owned the state of Florida because it wasn't just Chase that did that. Well, we started this company, and at the end of 1 year, we had 28 different communities working. Jim was in charge of marketing. I was in charge of sales, and we were flying back and forth, talking to New York banks constantly, back and forth, doing the dog and pony show that we had to do in the three-piece suits.
Sure.
And, you know, the whole costume, no hair on my face. I mean, it was the rules. And, Greg, you remember the rules of business as it used to be.
Yeah. You had to act the part.
In fact, everybody, when we had our property, all of our projects, when the bankers would show from up north, they'd all come in their three-piece suits. Now, we wore them, but we didn't. We took most of it off when we were working. And we had the tie loose and the vest to be hanging on the chair and that. And what we would do, we had golf carts. So these bankers would come in looking for problems. You know, obviously, because they're going to do a report to go back and say, hey, we're doing a bad job or whatever. So I would send home everybody that was working there that day that wasn't drop-dead good looking. And we would take the best-looking young girl we had, and that was the day of miniskirts. And we'd send her out with a golf cart with those guys on there. We got the best reports you have ever seen in your whole life.
Is that the art of the deal, Joe style?
Well, you know, there's some logic here.
I wouldn't actually use the word logic, but there's something there.
There's something there. Alan, you're thinking.
Yeah, it's time to talk a little legal about the Supreme Court.
The what?
The Supreme Court.
I mean, we're packing it?
No. You know the old Russian intelligence service, the KGB?
Yes.
Yeah. There is irrefutable evidence now that Trump had a direct tie to the KGB. By appointing Kavanaugh, Gorsuch, and Barrett, he has put the KGB on the Supreme Court.
There it is.
Oh,
I knew there was a Russian
direct connection. Way to go.
Missing link.
You know, that perfectly makes sense.
Yes, it does. But so all this Russian meddling story, it wasn't fake news. It was absolute truth. And there's the evidence.
You know, you got to say one thing about our show. We don't always give you the straight scoop. We do like fake news ourselves.
So let me ask this question. I've heard from many of my friends, well, you know, she took Ruth Bader Ginsburg's seat.
Yeah.
And she was an extremely left-leaning justice.
Right.
Now, here's my question. What made that her seat? Did that seat not come from somebody previous to her? Was it really that person's seat that she took?
I think what happened, one side of that seat leaned a little more than the other.
You know what, though? I thought this new justice hit it right on the head. She said that, you know, she was replacing someone who, you know, basically kicked down the glass ceiling. And she said, you have to understand, we look at the law the same way. She approaches it one way, I approach it another.
Very nice.
And I thought, wow. You know, and then I thought, okay, then a lot of this crazy discussion about her would go away, but it didn't.
No.
It's like nobody caught on to that remark, and it's like, oh.
Well, look at the history of the Supreme Court. You can't really tell what's going to happen when a nominee gets confirmed. Eisenhower appointed Earl Warren to the Supreme Court. He became the chief judge. And Eisenhower appointed him because he thought he was going to be very conservative, and the Earl Warren Court is known as one of the most liberal courts in the history of America. And
California,
John Roberts, the chief judge, is really replacing Kennedy as the swing justice on the Supreme Court. And I like the fact that the Supreme Court is not predictable.
You think there's a natural ebb and flow of justices as they come and they go, and the court seems to work for the good of the people, and that's truly the intent.
Right.
That's the
intent.
But
our democracy works best when the pendulum is swinging in near the middle, not extreme. We're getting a little extreme on both sides now, but the pendulum will swing back into the middle.
When did it get a little extreme? I thought it was a lot extreme.
Well, my name is Love. I'm going to be here another 3 months. I wanted to be
Alan
a little
got
nice.
Reinvicted.
But now I feel I can
assuming
pick on
the
you
show
again.
will be here another 3 months.
Well, hey, listen. If you die, it's not a big deal. Carol will still be here. Right? 340-1590, 340-1590. Yeah, Alan Love, who was just speaking as our special guest member for about the last 5 years, who's a retired prosecuting attorney from Wisconsin. So you and Russ could probably share the same black flies.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. And Alan, we have to, tell the truth here.
Go ahead.
Never went on a date with Kamala.
Didn't you really?
No,
You're the only one that didn't.
Not to his knowledge.
No, I have not.
Well, she was in California. That was a long drive.
But I'll tell you, she has an interesting sense of what it means to be a prosecutor.
Well, guess what?
Okay. Oh, man.
I will say this for those of you that are listening that are faithful listeners. I can't wait till next Wednesday's show. Now, I may not show. If Biden gets elected, I'm going to have to stay home and cry. But
you're not going to protest and burn and riot and take all the things you want?
Hey, listen, you got good insurance on this building? I think it's too late to up
what
your
What
coverage.
do you think, Kimosabe?
We have some words that I can't use right now. 340-1590, 340-1590. So after the...
It's going to be Biden big.
You believe that, really? Do you really believe it? Honestly.
Or do you just not like Trump?
Well, no, I didn't say that. I'm just thinking... Look at the numbers.
I think that a lot of people who
dislike
Trump, who vote for Biden for no other reason than I just dislike Trump, but they have no reason to like Biden. They just they just dislike Trump.
Well, you know what happens? So every election, you've been listening to this forever. It's the lesser of two evils. Whoever gets elected, every single presidential, it's the same words.
I know it.
This time, it's more vicious than ever in the past. Because Trump does not mince words. I mean, no other president has ever cursed
he's not a politician.
At demonstrations and
He's not a politician.
No, Lord save me.
So, that's the first target.
Yeah.
He doesn't play the game well. And I heard that from Schumer. And I thought, okay, he doesn't.
Yeah.
No.
He threw the game plan out a long time ago.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
And he's very clear about that. I mean, no such thing.
And many American citizens were tired of that game because I can't tell you how many people I have heard over the years that said, Dan, it doesn't matter who I vote for, they're all the same.
The other side of and there it is. One politician, same as another.
And it makes no difference what the party is.
Well, and it really doesn't.
No.
Because it was... and it's just little things that come in. You can come in desperately poor when you become a politician and come out extremely wealthy. How do you do that making a living?
An honest living. How do you do that?
How do you do that? Anyway, the concept is take a perfectly honest man, make him a politician, and corrupt him. I mean, it's just the way it is. So all of this stuff. Now, here leads me into Trump. He probably was corrupt before he got started.
Well, we all know that.
But he's coming in the same vein that he isn't changing. He is not.
But I did not.
Doesn't have a phony
I did not
bone.
hire Trump to, and I've said this before, to be my moral compass.
Yep.
I have other people in my life who I look to for that guidance. I looked to Trump when I hired him. I didn't say I voted for him, even though some people say that. I hired him to get the job done and to get America out of some of these bad contracts and to bring some manufacturing jobs back, to stabilize our country economically. And by and large, he's done a pretty doggone good job.
And listen, he did a magnificent job up until this COVID thing hit. Now, what happened is that first stimulus package kept this thing working at 8.5% unemployment. Was not going to be another stimulus until after the election.
And they still have hundreds of millions of
Sitting
dollars
there.
left from that has not been distributed. So don't dangle that carrot in front of the American people and say, woe is you, if he would only do what we said. Spend the money first.
The key thing is, guys, politics, we're all victims. I don't care who it is. We can talk about it, we can bitch about it, we can do whatever we want, but we are all victims of what goes on. But guess what? We thank you, Lord, we get to live in America. We could be in any other country, and every country I've been to, and you damn, except for Russia. When you went to Russia, they didn't talk bad about Putin because they were afraid.
Well, here's one of the things. So I stay over there right across from Red Square. It was a really wonderful hotel, and they actually had an Obama room in this hotel where he stayed. So, and I'm looking across the street, and I see this man dancing around like a fool, and he is a Putin lookalike, and he, for so many dollars, you can take your picture with him. And I remember thinking, I can't believe he allows that to happen right there in front of where he lives, but that's what they do. So it's not as bad as you think it is over there.
Yeah. So the concept is, I know if I go to the Bahamas, they don't want to impeach their president or prime minister. They just want to shoot him. It's not a big deal. Let's skip a step and get rid of him. But it just seems no matter where you go, corruption and politics are hand in glove. What's right for the people? Boy, oh boy, that's a hard one. That's a hard one.
Well, who does a good job are the Africans. So the African dictator comes in, he robs and plunders, and then he says to his friend, look, I'm going to Paris for the weekend. Now you have to have a coup. You can take over, and it's your turn. And I'm going out. I'm done. All right.
So
the American politicians do it, but they don't do it like that. It's the same basic process.
We just don't have any class.
We don't have the class that they do.
340-1590. Then back in about 08 or 09, we added Ms. Victoria Lloyd, Remax of Stewart, hardest working realtor, known made demand to the thing. And boy, Victoria's busy as a one-armed paper hanger right now with Mike Paulus, who is even busier. He's the mortgage broker. Mike can't even hardly see. He said he's never, ever, ever had as much business ever as he has now. Now, one of the things is, a lot more people know about him, but the truth is the market is hotter than a pistol.
And people are leaving the Northeast like you wouldn't believe, Joe.
So we have this dichotomy called, we have a recession, but housing is booming. Automobile industry is booming. We have a recession, but things are booming. These two statements don't rhyme.
Don't you remember stagflation with Jimmy Carter? And they said it couldn't happen? Well, you have it. You have a recession.
I was watching
things are booming.
CNBC last night. They said 700,000 businesses, small businesses, have closed because of COVID.
Well,
they closed not because of COVID, but because of the people above them who said you must close. That's why they closed.
Okay, there you go.
You got to be very, very careful.
COVID didn't shut them down.
Listen, when they say how many people have died of COVID, do you believe those numbers?
I believe that if you have cancer, stage 4 cancer, and you're dying of it, and you catch COVID, you die of COVID.
Yeah.
Right.
So, like, how many people, quote, go into a hospital and they may have cancer or heart or whatever, but they die of pneumonia? Well, oftentimes these things trigger one into the next. So this COVID thing has become the magic thing, and there's lots and lots and lots of controversy about, is extra money going to hospitals because of Medicare or Medicaid because of that word COVID? And the answer is yes.
And you have huge medical associations in other countries, Spain and in Europe, who have said this is all a hoax.
So the concept,
look it up.
How much
Google
of it is the truth, we will never know. You know, Greg, we are all victims of whatever political party is out there, and the two of them are never going to tell us the truth. And I'm not saying one is better than the other when it comes to this. The reality is, all I care about is if we can get back to this 3.5% unemployment.
Let me ask you this:
I'm going to be the happiest
camper. Do you know if more people have died of cancer than COVID?
Of course,
certainly.
All right, so if that's the case, why has not the government made a huge push? I mean, no expenses spared. Take every major scientist, all the private enterprise, and say, you, my friend, will find a cure. Do you think it could be because cancer is a big business?
Well, I was just going to say.
Kind of a clue.
Yeah.
All right. So if the government really wanted to eradicate certain things, it has in the past?
Well, what's very interesting, and this gets back to our dear attorney friend in here, is that Illinois, and I think your home state of Wisconsin is going to follow. Illinois has already said no professional sports in 2021 in the state. So the hockey team is looking at relocating to Tampa temporarily. And the basketball team,
of course,
may move to Tampa Bay area somewhere. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting, and Wisconsin may follow that.
Have you noticed? We know that the COVID numbers are up according to the CDC.
They are, and they are.
Let me ask you a question. How much extra testing is going on? Is there any statistics on the amount of
correlation between
testing?
They have it on the CDC site.
So,
wait a minute.
On that same
have you read it?
Vein, if we stop testing, Joe, if we stop testing, does COVID go away?
Of course it does.
It goes away.
Well,
that's that same logic. That's that
then
same
you
logic.
only have the people dying of it, which will be on the death certificates, right? But if you ever look at it, I mean, I unfortunately look at death certificates all the time because clients of mine die and they need to cash in stuff, so we have to have a death certificate. Well, most insurance companies, what they call long form, it has to show the cause of death on there. Well, I have not seen one that said COVID yet, but I have seen a whole bunch of them that said pneumonia, failure to thrive, complications to do with heart. I mean,
what is failure to thrive?
Well,
sounds like a catch-all.
No kidding.
The body wore out. It's all over.
The doctor goes, beats me.
Yeah, body just wore out. If you ever see a really, really old person, not too many of them are heavy. When they're in their 90s, they get skinnier and skinnier and skinnier. Their body just kind of leaves. And that's just called the way God's intended it, I guess, but that's just the way it is. So I am very, very, very skeptical of how many real legitimate COVID cases are out there, one. Two, how many people do you know personally, Greg, that have or had COVID?
A lot now.
Well, how many is a lot? 3, 10, 20?
Oh, no. It's
personally.
Probably 50.
50. I know one. Dan?
I don't know any. I just have friends of a friend who said
friends of a friend. But I'm saying you actually physically knew 50 people. You could name these people that have COVID?
A lot of them were athlete friends, yes.
Acting. You said acting?
Athletes.
No, athletes.
Athletes. Okay, so that is, I could see where you would, because once they get these teams going, everybody's sweating and slapping each other and throwing balls around, the contagion left. How many of these people died?
Well, they all did.
Well, thank you very much. But how many die of COVID?
Oh, no idea.
Well, I'm trying. Probably none of them, because athletes are usually pretty strong physical specimens. They're young.
They could be wore-out athletes.
There's not too many. But the media yesterday, they made a monster deal out of an 18-year-old kid that died of COVID. They don't tell you about the 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s. They don't show the reality.
I think
it's
they do that, Joe, because it's out of the norm.
Of course.
It's out of the norm. So they're going to gravitate to what's out of the norm and say, ha-ha, look at this. 1 out of 100 million actually was a teenager.
But they didn't say that. All they said is 18-year-old died.
But don't
and
you
they got a
think
picture of the kid. He's a handsome kid. The whole.
Don't you think the American public, I'm praying, is smart enough to see through that ruse?
I don't think so. I think a whole bunch of them are not. I really, really think. And I think about My aunt up in Michigan, she's scared to death to walk out of the house because Michigan says you're going to die if you do, and she's in her 70s. I mean, it's just all right. So there's lots and lots of people that are deathly afraid to do anything.
Well, if you have underlying issues,
there you go.
All right, I have underlying issues.
Yeah.
I have some, respiratory issues, and I have, some blood sugar issues, but I refuse not to live in fear. I'm not going to live in fear. I'm going to live in caution. And therein lies the difference. I practice good hygiene. I try to socially distance when I can. I try to wear a mask when I can, even though I have some doubts about the mask. I still wear it because I think that's what they want us to do.
Well,
but I know that good hygiene's been preached for decades.
See, my mask has Trump 2020 on it, so nothing can get through that. 340-1590, 340-1590. Again, I'm a cynic. I have so little faith in people. I have met one of my clients that knows 3 people specifically that have had COVID, and one that did die, and that one was in their 50s, quote, had underlying health conditions.
Underlying health conditions.
Yeah.
Listen, I know people every year who get deathly ill from the flu.
Yeah.
Some on the brink of death, and occasionally, one of them dies from it.
Yeah.
But that's of the flu. And if you take that and you compound that on a nationwide level, it's just a COVID thing.
Well, okay, next question. I got a flu shot last year.
I remember you sick for 2 weeks.
Yeah. Okay. Are you going to take the vaccine?
Let me tell you this.
The flu vaccine?
The
COVID
new
vaccine.
COVID. If it became a situation that I can help people because we are on the radio.
Because you're old.
And I'm old and I don't die, the whole concept is if it's to the benefit of other people than me, because I've never had a flu shot in my life. But I would do this.
Really?
Never.
I have a flu shot every year. I had one again this year and a pneumonia shot because I've had both of those ailments. So I try to go with the science. I don't think they're killing me. Just like they gave me my polio vaccines when I was a child.
Yeah.
I didn't think that they were trying to kill me, but I do know that some people had bad reactions.
There you go. And Greg,
right.
you had a 2 weeks. You had the key. A lot of people
But I'll
take
still
the shot.
go back and get a flu shot.
Well, I am going to, if it comes out, when the vaccine comes out, if it's to the benefit of anybody that listens to this show, I will be glad to have it.
You want the placebo, don't you, Joe?
Well, of course I want the placebo. I don't want the real thing.
Well, I talked to a buddy of mine who's a pharmacist.
You kind of remind me of my first 2 wives
That's
were
right.
placebos.
And here's what he told me. He goes, listen, we make medicine for the masses.
Yeah.
And we know that in the masses, some people are going to have some reactions. He goes, we are already working towards the future where the medication will be made for your DNA.
If they
and
can
it
get
will be
there, yeah.
custom compounded. And he goes, today, if you have enough money, they'll custom compound it today. So you watch and see up the road, a lot of those shots that the masses have, they'll be custom designed for you.
But how do you sell that to the anti-vaccine crowd?
Like I said, people like me or Dan, if we take the shot and we're on the radio or other ones that can talk about it, there's a lot of people that won't do it, and I understand that. Here's another thing that we don't get hardly any publicity on. To me, the vaccine is not nearly as critical as an antidote for people that get the disease. Like here's Trump supposedly had it for 1 or 2 days, and they pumped him full of a cocktail of stuff, and he doesn't have any symptoms after that. So resveratrol or whatever it might be, there should be people jumping up and down making sure this stuff's available at every hospital, every clinic in America.
So what you're saying is it's not the fact that you got it, all right? So let's accept the fact that most of us will get it in our lifetimes, but we're more interested in, hey, can I take a few drugs?
Make the recovery
and
easier.
Make the recovery
Can I get a
easy.
shot and make the recovery? I mean,
Versus
listen,
giving me a shot that says you'll never get it.
I would do that in a heartbeat.
in a heartbeat. But how little publicity. See, here comes the politics of it. This is not, and in non-defense of Biden and group, everything is gloom and doom and disaster. We're all going to die because of Trump, because of this COVID thing. Oh, we have.
He's been waiting 47 years to tell us this.
We got resveratrol that you can take this antidote and the next day you're okay. Well, wait a minute. It only works on President Trump. It can't work on anybody else. I mean, all I'm trying to say is the antidote to me is much more important than a vaccine, because many people will not do the vaccine. There are mothers today that don't want their kids to get the mumps and measles vaccines, all kinds of stuff.
And you should homeschool your children then.
Point is, it's still, you have a right in America not to have certain injections, but on the other hand, some schools say if you don't, you can't go to that school. Homeschool them then. That's okay. So,
and if you homeschool, I believe you should get a tax break on your property taxes because you're not participating.
Not
I also believe if you're over the age of 65, you shouldn't pay taxes on schools. Your kids are grown.
Oh.
I think when you get to be my age, you should get a rebate for 10 years.
You should get a refund, Joe.
340-1590, 340-1590. So, Alan, you're here till March now.
You've been quiet today, Alan.
Well, the discussion has been wonderful and enlightening, which is
unusual.
Not a surprise. No, it's not a surprise for
shocking to Alan.
This show.
You're not shocked?
No.
I only saw you shake your head a couple of times.
No. I don't get shocked. I get spastic. There's a difference. Anyway, one of the things that I think is important, you're talking about vaccines and treatments and things like that. The thing is that you've got to be able to convince the public, no matter what it is, that the vaccine or the treatment isn't going to be worse than the disease.
Well, that's what Greg was saying. He got the flu shot last year, and he was sicker than a dog for 2 weeks after he got the shot. But that's some people have that reaction. I am sure some people, when we get the vaccine, are going to have that reaction. I am more than willing to take the risk to be on the radio and explain what happened to me. By the way, speaking of business and money, which for some reason we actually do these shows for that, this is a constant subject that I bring up constantly, and I have people, no matter how often I talk about it, beware of an instrument called an index annuity. Index annuity. Index annuity. The index annuity also has another word in front of it called a fixed index annuity. When it has that word fixed, the majority of the money has to be invested in bonds that are paying 1% and 2%. So the insurance company cannot pay you 10, 15, 20%, as sometimes people are led to believe, because it's a fixed product.
Does that mean there's a cap on that, Joe?
You have to watch out for that word, cap, C-A-P. Now, I can't tell you how important that one word is. You need to ask whoever's talking to you about this. If you go to a seminar for a free dinner, I don't know if they're doing those right now with COVID. The whole concept is these things are sold like crazy to people as no-risk instruments, and they can make money, but you can't lose. Be very, very, very careful. Yes, if 1% a year is okay with you, stay with that. Now you know what you're going to get. You might have a long-term commitment, but the bottom line is, if you think you're going to make 10, 15, or 20, you need to understand the word cap.
Joe, isn't 1% sort of like going broke slow with inflation?
Well, it is going broke slow. I mean, you go to the bank right now, why do you think people want to invest their money? They're getting 1/10% on savings accounts. I mean, it's insignificant. I had a client today. We had one of our notes got called. Was paying 5%, and they called it, which means take all your money back. So she started off with $10,000. Now she's got $11,500, and she's complaining she only made $1,500. And I said, now if you'd had that money in the bank for that same period of time, you'd have made $100 instead of $1,500. Oh, really? I never thought about that. Well, the key thing is, when you've got cash money, cash doesn't go up or down. If it's invested in a money market or a savings account or a bank account, you don't make much. If you're going to...
Mine does. It's in the mattress.
Well, see, the mattress is very protective as long as you don't throw it away. So the concept of, I worry about people listening to this show, if they hear that word fixed index annuity, be very careful and make sure you ask the word, I want to see the cap. After the agent leaves and leaves you some paraphernalia to read, there's a phone number there, which is the main company home office. You call them and say, I want to talk about this product. And get a person at the main office, you don't have to believe me, and say, is there a cap on this product?
Joe, if I was going to do that, if I was thinking about that, could I call you to come there and tell me the questions and stuff?
I have sat with people time and time again, and I said, okay, I'm going to call the company up directly. I'm going to tell them you're here. You're going to give them permission to talk to me, and I'm going to ask these questions. And when we're all done, you're going to throw up because you were not told the truth. So the concept is be very, very cautious of the word. And I know guys that are on the radio, safe money, doing all, and it is. You're not going to make anything. But beware of, I've never heard anybody on the radio talk about this cap.
Well, you can't say they're not going to make anything. They're going to make next to nothing.
Very, very, very well. But, you know, if all you are concerned about is preservation of capital and earning more than 1/10%, there's some logic here. All of a sudden, that 1 or 2 is not looking so bad.
That's like the guys that bought all the toilet paper to resell it.
Exactly.
One thing that's more important than money in the next 6 days or so is please go vote.
Vote.
Do your civic duty.
I think we're all done, are we, Chief? I guess he just cut us off, so that means we're all done.
You've been listening to the Team Martek Hour. The Team Martek Hour is a paid program. The content was provided by the advertiser. WPSL, its staff, management, and ownership were not responsible for its content. Investment involves risk. Prior to making any investment, an investor should meet suitability requirements. Past results are not necessarily indicative of future performance. Neither the opinions expressed nor the information provided constitutes a recommendation to purchase or provide investment advice. The material presented is not a substitute for obtaining professional advice from a qualified person or firm. Securities offered through Centaurus Financial, member FINRA and SIPC. Tune in again next Wednesday at 11:05 for the Team Martek Hour here on WPSL 1590.